Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was a pretty surprising movie to me, considering it was actually a great Marvel movie. Now, I detailed all the things that make it great in my review, but the conversation around the movie seems to be shifting towards James Gunn and his new DCU. Now, it is no secret most fans are pretty hesitant to be excited about Gunn's plans, considering DC's past, and let's face it, the fact is, up till now, Gunn is pretty much stuck to his niche when it comes to superheroes. Whether it's Guardians of the Galaxy, The Suicide Squad, or Peacemaker, they're all pretty tonally similar projects, and that's worrying when you have someone like that in charge of DC's entire stable of characters. Can he handle characters who have a more serious tone like Batman and Superman? While Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 doesn't give us a complete answer, it does manage to give us more pieces to the puzzle that is James Gunn's new DCU. I want to preface what I'm about to say by stating what I think should be pretty obvious by this point. Anyone who believes David Zaslav and the new direction DC is headed in is anti-woke is just wrong. Until I see some products they're involved in come out, we can only judge by what they've released so far. The Flash literally replaces Superman with Supergirl for zero reason at all. Henry Cavill was right there, and us fans know he would have been ecstatic to reprise his role. The new DCU will have its fair share of tokenized casting, nonsensical plot changes to pump up previously unimportant characters, and all kinds of other issues. When I talk about having a bit of hope, I mean it more relative to the future of the MCU. Now, barring some horrendous casting choices, which are honestly very likely at this point, at least Superman and Batman seem to be at the forefront of this new DCU. It has the potential to at least start off on a solid path, and that's what I'll mainly be talking about here. All that being said, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was a great movie, and some of the reasons why are the same reasons I find myself having a bit more faith in the new DCU. One of the worries most people have about James Gunn is his niche seems to be quirky, comedic characters. Now, this movie doesn't really change that fact, but what it does show is he has the ability to write some real serious moments into his movies. They were able to let some of the serious moments sit with the audience more than previous movies like Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania were ever able to. Guardians 3 shows that Gunn has a decent ability to balance light and dark tones, and while it is still a Guardians movie that has a lot of jokes, it's clear he knows how to slow things down too. That ability is key for a character like Superman, who in most cases embodies the lighter side of DC. That being said, Superman should be the reverse of the Guardians. He is mostly serious, but in an upbeat, light tone that mixes with a small amount of humor occasionally. Even Batman can be funny on rare occasions, and I think Gunn is smart enough that he'll leave the hardcore wisecracking to characters like Booster Gold, that he most likely brought in for that exact purpose. A big reason Guardians of the Galaxy 3 worked so well was the villain. And in a time where Marvel can't write a decent villain to save their lives, it's especially impressive. DC has a ton of iconic villains, some similar to the High Evolutionary's tone and others not so much. Knowing that Gunn was behind this villain gives me a bit more hope for characters like Lex Luthor and the Joker. Yes, it's important to perfect the hero, but the villain is an underrated part of making a great movie, so knowing that Gunn doesn't slack off when it comes to his villains is reassuring. The final point I want to touch on is how Star-Lord was treated in Guardians 3. For the first time in what feels like ages at this point, we actually got to see a male hero be badass and not get completely upstaged by the women around him.
No way! No way!
What must seem completely crazy about this to the other Marvel writers is Gunn was able to have badass men and badass women, since those guys clearly think female character empowerment has to come at the cost of the male heroes. That's a very good sign for DC, considering they have a huge roster of both great male and female characters. It would be amazing to see Superman and Batman fighting alongside Wonder Woman and Hawkgirl instead of sitting in the corner apologizing for their existence while their female superiors save the day.
Is that allowed?
Yes, it's encouraged.
Now, I'm not saying I have unwavering faith in Gunn to be able to pull all that off, but it does seem like at the very least the tide is beginning to shift in Hollywood. After seeing what he was able to do with Guardians 3, it does give me some faith he understands how to handle male and female characters coexisting. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be too surprised if I'm wrong on this one. And frankly, that's where I land on most of this. I really hope I'm not reading too much into these things. I truly hope DC can benefit from what made Guardians 3 the only good Marvel movie in years. But if I'm wrong, I can't say I'd be too surprised at this point. James Gunn is definitely a passionate guy. And as we saw with Thor Love and Thunder, passion can get wildly out of control, and it even did get out of control a bit during Guardians 3. With him being the sole writer we know of on Superman, there is the risk of that happening. There is also the possibility that he got roped into his niche early on, and he's been waiting his whole life to take on a character of this magnitude. At the end of the day, all we can do is sit back, wait, and pray to all the gods in existence that we don't end up with more movies like Birds of Prey.